So, let me ask a question, first of all. And if you can get 7 and 12, great. This is the question. How many of you decided one day, sometime, whether you were a kid or as an adult, you're going to read the Bible, and you're going to start at page 1, and you're going to read, until you got finished with it? How many of you ever made that decision? Raise your hand if you did. Now, keep your hand up if you finished. Ah, Susan, good for you. All right. Excuse me. Most people get into the Bible a little ways, and then they get bogged down when it starts being who's the father of who, and who's the father of who, and who's the father of who. And the stories sometimes get strange, and it happens. The first 11 chapters of the Bible are kind of fast, and then all of a sudden, they start talking about this guy, Abram, or Abraham. Happens in the 12th chapter of Genesis, and we read the beginning of that story, which starts when the guy's an old man already. So it's kind of an odd place to start a story. Abram's story starts with him getting up from wherever it was that he lived, and it was a place in what is today Iraq, getting up from there because he believes that God has told him he needs to move his family from there to Canaan, or to Palestine as we know it today. This is a generous gift from God. There is no particular reason. We're not told that Abraham did anything to deserve this. We're not told that he was special in any way. Just God said, you get up, you go over there. When you get there, I'm going to give that land to you and your descendants are going to be they're going to outnumber the sands of the sea, he eventually says. So, Abraham does it. He gets up and he goes. This is the first of a pile of stories in the Bible involving people taking a journey, traveling from one place to another. Abraham's grandson, Jacob, is one of those who does. He has to flee because his brother is trying to kill him, so he travels to a far country and then comes back again. And then Jacob's children have to travel to Egypt because there's a famine in their own land. And then once we get to Egypt, then there's a really big story of a travel of the slaves in Egypt going back to Palestine again, a long journey of 40 years or more. And then finally, they get back to the land that they started from, the land given to Abram. Jesus' entire ministry takes place as he walks from place to place. So this idea of people traveling around, this is nothing new. This is part of it. You know stories about journeys, don't you? You've read stories about journeys. How many of you have read Huckleberry Finn? Okay, where does he go? Down the Mississippi on a raft. And as he travels along, he learns things and has adventures and things. Who's read The Lord of the Rings? The whole thing. Okay, good. There's a pretty big journey involved in that, wouldn't you agree? He has. Anybody see the movie Wild with Reese Witherspoon? It's a true story. Excellent movie, by the way, where she gets on the Appalachian Trail with absolutely no idea how to hike, with a pack that's just about bigger than her, and travels along. And the story is of what she learns as she travels. Who knows other travel stories, other stories about journeys? There's so many. What are you thinking of?
Shadow of War.
Shadow of War, about which I know nothing, but... Oh, okay. Similar to Lord of the Rings. Who knows another story that involves a journey? Yeah, that's two I've not seen. Okay, give me another one. I'm going to keep going. The Odyssey, yeah, one of the oldest stories is a story of a journey. What do you got, Bella? What? Oh, I don't know that one either, but I've heard of it. I have heard of it. Is Deborah? Pilgrim's Progress. Yeah, that's another old one. Travels with Charlie, yeah. There's a lot. The Canterbury Tales, yeah. So we can go on and on. Barbara. What? Yeah, okay.
Me. Oh. I own an epic journey, and they're on a mission from God, the Blues Brothers.
The Blues Brothers. We're going to stop right there. Because Bob has just said my all-time favorite movie.
One of my favorite movies, too.
Okay. And what do they do? Where are they going? Why are they doing this?
They've got to save the orphanage, and they're taking the money from the gigs to pay the taxes.
And when they're asked what they're doing, what do they say?
We're on a mission from God.
We're on a mission from God. So this is a common story. And one of the reasons I like the Blues Brothers is it's your story. Because who here is on a mission from God? Or, being as they're from Chicago, a mission from God. Okay? You are. You're on a mission from God. So, life is journey. Life is journey, not from place to place necessarily, but from moment to moment, from growth to growth, and sometimes from place to place. Are you on a journey? Are you headed somewhere? Are you changing or growing? Are you aging? I hope you are. I'm not saying I hope you're aging, but you've only got two choices as far as that goes, right? So you have to grow, because once growth stops, death comes. Now, we have been called by God just like Abram was called. God is telling us to leave our home and travel to a new land, spiritually, if not physically. God is saying, leave that place where you are. Come over here and find a new home. God is calling us to a place where you are a better person than where you are right now. God's call is for you to become a better person than you are right now. And how are we doing at following the God call thing? Now, the United Church of Christ, I'm sorry, that doesn't show up very well. I never know until I get it up on the wall on the morning that we do it. So, the UCC theme for this month, it's on the front of your bulletin, the journey to generosity. The idea being that we're trying to take a journey where we become more generous people. And this really struck me because this is something I actually am trying to do, trying to learn to be more generous, because in some ways I'm a pretty generous person, and others maybe not. And I'm trying to learn how to be more generous financially, which is hard because I am one of those people who lives with a financial anxiety, whether it's based in reality or not. It makes me anxious. So I'm trying to learn to change and be better. I don't like to talk about it, but it's one of God's calls to me. There is also a call to have a generous spirit, to look at people positively the first time you see them, rather than to look for the negatives, to see people in their best light rather than to look for their worst. And I'm learning to do this more and more, and recognizing when I fail. But what about you? Now, last Sunday afternoon, Reverend John Dorhauer was here, the president of the United Church of Christ. He was talking about the differences in the way churches should be today because of the change in generations. And he said, one thing that today's people, the postmodern people, are not going to do is they're not going to come into a room like this and sit down and listen to one person, one authority, talk for 20 minutes or so. And you know what? He's right. And so I'm not going to do it. You are the authorities today. So I'm going to ask you this, and I already asked it for you, so you maybe already are thinking about it, but are you on a journey? And where are you trying to go? Are you on a journey that is spiritual and personal? Are you trying to become better in some way? And if so, in what way? And you have to now take over the sermon and tell me about what journey you are on. And if that's too personal, talk to me about someone you know who has been on a journey. But let me hear from you. You are the preachers. Talk to me about the journey in your life. Monty's first. Monty, you say you're on your way to heaven. Okay. Monty's on a journey to find his way to heaven. I would like to know what's going to happen to Monty between today and that day, because there's a lot of things that are going to come in there. Who else? Who is on a journey? Who is aware or asking for changes? Elizabeth.
Well, my journey starts with trauma. I have a survival of childhood trauma and domestic violence. Also, my journey has been one of finding who I am, regaining power as a human being and value, and then learning to use it to help others.
Okay. That's a pretty heavy journey, and you are not the only person traveling that road. Elizabeth says she is on a journey from trauma to health and to peace again, from overcoming abuse and trauma in her past to moving towards faith. And I appreciate you sharing that with us, because that's not an easy thing to talk about. Thank you, Elizabeth, and God bless you on that journey. Who else can talk about it today? Yes, Barbara. Yeah. Okay. Now, that's an interesting one. Barbara says one of the journey that she's on, she's moved recently and she's got to find new friends. But putting herself out there, being willing to get out there and take that chance to meet people and get to know people, for some people like myself, that's about the easiest thing there is to do. And for other people, it's really difficult. Who struggles with that journey as well? To get out there and to meet those people. Okay, you're not alone on that journey, Barbara. I'm starting to find we got a theme going here. Who else? Aaron, what's your journey?
Pretty much just living on my own. Pretty much just finally feeling free for once.
Yeah.
And then taxes.
Yeah. Okay. Aaron is on the young man's journey. He's on his journey of finding out, how do I do this by myself on my own? And there's all kinds of things that you're going to stumble over in that process as you figure it out. And just about the time you get figured it out, you're going to have to figure out how to start getting old. And that's going to be another whole journey there. Who else is on a journey? Who is looking for a way to become a better person than you are now? Who's working on that? Lee.
Over 45 years I've worked in rural communications, talking to people on the radios, fixing radios so people can talk to people on it, putting up antennas, because that's how we get our signal. As you saw this past weekend, I celebrated Reformation out there in Carnahan. At the same time, there was over 21 people, okay, 7 students from the school and 14 others that just kind of drove by, walked by, rode the bike, stopped by, and talked to see what I was doing. And they got to see that I was talking in the air, talking to the world, to bring them faith. And that's my whole big thing in life. And I've always been excited about my hobby and what I've done for my work that ties them together. And still today, even though I'm retired, is that I can pass the word of people, just love or whatever it may be, in many different formations.
Lee has been on a lifelong mission to pass a message of love to other people in the world. I've learned that about Lee. There's a lot more going on than you might think with him. Unless you can tell by the way he jingles when he walks, he's got that many things going on in his life. So, who else? Who else can talk about it? Carolyn.
So I've long been on a journey to help teenagers try to figure out their way in the world. But I think I just figured out this morning that my journey seems to be to work with particularly young girls with anxiety and try to help them overcome that struggle and move forward.
You're in the right place to do that work, working in a high school to help young girls dealing with anxiety. That's good. And many of us are on a journey also of learning to just manage our own anxieties. That's a big struggle. How many find that to be part of your life's journey to deal with there's a lot of us. We're on that journey together. I saw another hand somewhere. Where did I see it? Let me get Chad over here, Barbara. I'll come back to you. Chad?
My journey is don't other people.
Your journey is to what? Other people?
Don't judge.
Not judge? Not judge other people. Oh, Chad, did you have to bring that one up? How many people are on a journey to become a person who does not judge other people? Thanks a lot, Chad. I'm going to start doing my own sermons from now on. Let me hear from two more of you, two more people who have someone that hasn't said anything yet. Karen?
As a teacher and student, the journey of essentially learning that there's this reality, philosophy, concept of educating our young children, and wanting to do what's right for all, and not fall into the trap of necessarily pleasing all parents' expectations, but to do what's best and ever change.
Yeah.
Research and philosophy is always changing as we grow.
It is so to continue to make the changes and the growth that you need to continue to do the good work, and that's never a point where you arrive.
Right.
Never arrive.
Yeah.
So it means a continual journey. And I don't know of any journeys that ever get finished as far as that goes. So I think that's good. I'm glad to hear that. And I saw someone else that hasn't spoken yet. Yeah, Tara.
Greg and I have had tugged in our heart for years. Our children are already raised, but seeing what's going on in society and going to the children, we started the process of becoming foster parents.
Wow, we're going to stop right there because that's such a heavy thing that you're taking on. If you didn't hear, Tara and Greg are starting the process to learn to become foster parents. And that is a process that makes you a better person and makes the world a better place, but it is not in any way an easy journey, and I commend you for that. It may be that is the journey that God has called you on. I know you well enough to know that that's how you see it, that this is the work that God has given us. All of us are on these journeys. Every one of us is being called by God to some place, and it's so important that we know what it is and we move in that direction. Amen. Thank you for your sermons today.
You've been listening to a sermon by Reverend Stephen Carnahan, pastor of High Street Congregational Church in Auburn, Maine. If you feel inspired by what you hear, you're invited to join us in person for worship services every Sunday morning, starting at 10 o'clock. Of course, you can always listen to Steve's sermons on the web. New sermons are posted every Monday by midday. Please explore this website for more information about our church, or visit our Facebook page at High Street Congregational Church, UCC, where you'll find the video version of Steve's sermons as well. We hope that God's presence will be known to you every hour of every day. May God's blessings rest upon you now and always. See you next week.